Suzy, I spent a considerable amount of time with Ryan Poles, the general manager, yesterday for our one-on-one. And as you know, in this business, we're told, hey, you got a time limit, you got to stick to the time. And I wasn't given a time limit. So I opted to go for a good 6 minutes with the GM because I think it's the biggest story. When we talk about all these quarterbacks, and it's really going to be kind of an interesting draft in terms of where these top caliber elite performers fall. And he has a quarterback to figure out himself in Justin Fields. And so it was a really good in-depth conversation. And I do have some takeaways, but I would probably like to see where you'd like to go with those.
Well, I'm curious about what you think. Number one, he says he's coming there with an open mind, but does he really have an open mind?
Well, I think you have to when you don't have a lot of picks right now. The Bears, they don't have a ton of capital in this year's draft. They can get more capital, as we saw last year with the first overall pick. It's very rare, as you know, to have back-to-back first overall picks. You have to be open-minded. But I also think when you do have a scenario where if you are oddly drafting at the top of the draft in consecutive seasons, you're going to have to make a move at some point, right, to better your team with the first overall pick. And basically, when I asked him, can you not use that pick? I mean, basically saying to him, Ryan Poles, how could you not draft a quarterback after last year trading it away? And yes, it was an incredible, masterful trade. They acquired a number of draft picks from the Carolina Panthers. They also sit at 9 in this year's draft, and they got the first overall pick this year. And, basically told me it would have to be the right quarterback to take a quarterback at number 1. And he would have to be a can't miss guy. But I think we all understand, as we've seen historically, you can see quarterbacks be taken in the top 10 and be misses. Now, here's what I would say about Poles. He spent 13 years in Kansas City. He was a part of, the Brett Veach group and that brought in Patrick Mahomes, who fell in love with this generational talent when he was very young. Even before his days at Texas Tech, it was a long process, and that's what Poles talked to me about, the process and how they understood the talent was there, and it was remarkable talent. When you consider the offense he played in, he threw the ball quite a bit at Texas Tech. Patrick Mahomes did, but it was the character that they became really linked to. And so my question is, when you think about Caleb Williams, you think about Jaden Daniels, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, you go through the list, which character are they falling in love with? And does that happen to be the guy everybody thinks they're taking in Caleb Williams?
And do you feel like the relationship with Justin Fields is reparable? It just seems like there's such a great degree of mistrust now from the quarterback back to the team.
Well, when you scrub your team, your NFL team, from your social media, which Justin Fields did. And he basically said the reason he did it is because he didn't want any work distractions while he was off on his own time, essentially, or vacation or whatever he's doing in his personal time. I think that's significant. And I also think that if I were interviewing a general manager and they knew their guy was their guy, would they not come out and tell me that? I really like Ryan Poles. I think he's been extremely accessible. I think he's extremely smart. He's done some really nice things with the roster. Their draft last year was outstanding, especially their second round defensive picks. But if that's my guy, and they kind of did this last year, Suze. Last year, when they had the first overall pick, they were sort of all in on Justin Fields. We haven't heard that. So I don't know if it's reparable. I don't know if it's something that could be mended if it doesn't work out. What I do know is they need a substantial amount of capital if they're going to trade Justin Fields. That's going to be important in how much they get and how those conversations sort of parlay themselves over the next few weeks.
What do you think it would take?
Really, man, I've thought about this over and over. Look what they got from Carolina for that first pick, knowing how many teams need quarterbacks. I think it would take picks next year, and I think it would take another pick in the year after that, and I think it would take a substantial amount of capital in this year's draft. I'm actually more inclined to believe, Suzy, that they will trade away their 9th pick overall But let's say they don't. Let's say they draft like Caleb Williams and one of these tackles, because the tackle, I don't know if I've ever seen a class of tackles this deep. What if they fell in love with Alt or Fashanu or somebody like that to add to the opposite side of their offensive line with Darnell Wright, who they took in the first round last year? What if they did that? Imagine they took Neighbors, or they found a receiver that they loved and took at 9. I mean, there's so many Odunze, like there's so many possibilities for them, but it would take an incredible amount of capital to trade the first pick. I think they're going to use it, and I think they're going to draft a quarterback.
And should they use it, and should they draft that quarterback, what's the right fit for Justin Fields?
Justin Fields around the league. I mean, a lot of people talk about Atlanta, right? Because the opportunity's there, new coaching regime, it would be a fresh start for him. When you think about him kind of returning to his roots, that might be appealing. I've heard, a number of different possibilities when you consider teams that are quarterback needy right now. I just think it has to be a fresh start for him and a fresh start for the team. So I think a new staff in place would be the right direction to go. But you have to look at 3 years in the NFL. How many wins has he had? Where would that stand on your roster? He improved, as Brian Poles told me yesterday, improved in terms of his approach at the line of scrimmage and his ability to read and process and react. I would almost go back. It's been 3 years in the NFL. Who liked him then, and where are they now?
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.